Hey, what's up? And welcome to this very new tutorial. My name is MrPoppo, and today we're going to be taking a look on how to do a glitch effects. First thing you want to do is you want to get familiar with the sound. You must have the sound first. So the moment you get the sound, you're gonna start your project like this. You're just gonna have sound. Alright, so what you do when you get the sound, normally I like to go outside and keep listening to it and imagine what I need to do. Alright, so for this tutorial, let's just say that we want to say a sentence. It's like, hey, we don't want this, but we have this. Hence the tagline, which is pretty very informative, that, we don't have that, but hey, we have, we have Poppo and we have cats. So that's why Poppo community is really good. And by the way, you should join our Discord channel, because hey, so how do you get familiar with the sound, and where do you decide when things are coming in and things are coming out? Like, how can you know that? Well, let's start with the first part here. Okay, so if I click 2 times on L, shortcut L, I'm gonna have a sound form. Now, this is what the sound looks like. So if we listen to this, all right, so we can feel like something is coming, something is about to start. It's like we can feel that something, it's coming. They're coming. They're coming for you. And this is maybe a trailer. Maybe I'm about to say something very important. So I can feel like something is coming. All right. So this is coming thing. So while you're working on this, you may want to write down, or maybe you want to write down things inside of After Effects so you know exactly the time of things. So for that, it's going to take me to the second part, which is markers, the use of markers. So what are markers? It's not your pen marker, but it's this marker right here. So if I click drag this, I'm going to have this. And then if you click drag this, I'm going to have more. Okay? Now let's delete that. Control click. Okay. So click, drag, and put it here. And I'm gonna double click, and here I'm gonna say transition in. Okay, so things are gonna come in here. And then what's gonna happen next? So I'm just gonna go to the second sound again, L, and I can hear. So while listening to this sound, I can clearly identify that there is an up, and then there is a down, and then there is an up, and then there is a down again. Alright, so every time that there is a down, you can imagine that as scaling down. When there is an up, it's like change subtly the composition, or subtly change the color, or subtly change the text, or subtly change the size of something. You see, this is how you use sound in glitch design. And whenever there is something also that is coming up, it's maybe they're scaling up, or maybe it's coming in, or maybe it's going up, as text, pictures, whatever you have to work with. Maybe here, like somewhere around here, I'm gonna have my, what do we call that? Let's just call it like my text is gonna be in. So it's like the first text. I'm gonna say first text in. Okay, so first text in. Maybe something is just gonna stop here. So we're gonna call this, for example, we're just gonna call it prank. So something must happen there, like scale down or retract or suddenly appear, but it should be very small because prank. You see that? Here. So something should stop there. Alright, so I finished doing my tags. So as you can see, I put quite a clear and very easy to understand markers so that I know what's going on. So first text in, second text, big text, the little point that we talked about, and then we have the other text and the following text, and of course the last tagline or website or whatever you feel like using this technique for. So this was done. The next thing I'm gonna do is obviously start creating, but I'm not gonna start creating in high resolution. But what I mean in high definition or high resolution, it's like this is not going to be the animation. What I'm going to do now, it's like an animatics. We call that a blocking. So I just need to know where my text is going to be, what kind of color, how big it is, and what text it is. That's it. Or what image, or whatever you're going to create here. So that's the next part, which is putting the text as animatics and your initial main shape, you know, movements. So we're gonna start by that. Of course, the first thing I need to do is I need to get a background. So I'm just gonna Control Y or create new solid, and I'm gonna bring this color. I'm gonna call this a background, all right, or BG for short. Perfect. So I'm just gonna put it there, of course, because the sound doesn't really matter. Okay, now that we have our background, the next thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start putting my text. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the first text, which is somewhere around here. And I'm just gonna go here, black, okay, so I'm gonna say we don't, for example. Okay, I'm gonna somehow stick to the same text. I'm not sure if you guys want to do the same, but you could do it. Alright, so now that I have all my text going on, so the first text, we don't have books, but we have football for some reasons, and then we don't have a job, we don't have. Now, before I do all this, I want to stay organized from now on, and I'm gonna use a lot of elements in this scene, a lot of other elements in this scene. I'm gonna start organizing myself and organizing my layers, not only naming them but also coloring the layers, not inside but in the timeline. So I'm gonna say maybe this one is yellow, maybe this one is aqua, this one is pink. Okay, so anything that is gonna happen in this scene is gonna be this blue. Anything that's gonna happen in this scene is gonna be this color, etc, etc, etc. I'm just gonna go and explain here text animation. Now let me explain to you something. Now text animation, what is text animation? Obviously we all know that we can go inside this, we can go inside a transform, put a position, put a keyframe here, go a little bit, put a keyframe for example here, and then, you know, easy is it's animated. You see, this is also an animation, but it's not really a text animation. It's a text layer animation, but it's not a text animation. So what I mean by text animation is that we go over this. Because, for example, you want to animate in characters. So, are you telling me that what you're going to do is you're going to go mask the first letter, and then if it's too, you know, like that, if the font is a bit strange and E is already here, that you're gonna go literally and mask every letter in and then duplicate the letter and then, you know, go to the next letter like that, and then you're gonna offset like this, and then maybe if the whole animation you want to change it, like to go up or to go in a certain way, you're gonna have to do it to every single letter. I think that's not really a practical way of doing it. So we're gonna use what we call a text animation, and for that I'm just gonna go inside here. You can see text animate. I'm gonna click on animate and I'm gonna say, for example, position. Okay, and then here I'm gonna have 0. So this is where my position is gonna, you know, it's gonna finish. Now if I try to move this, I'm moving the whole thing. So how do we animate this? So do we just animate this like that, like, you know, we just go like 1 second and we just move it like that? I mean, is this how we animate things? No, we could have just done that into transform, but this is not how we do things. Now if you're gonna animate this, first you have to tell it where it is gonna start from. Like this is where it's gonna start from. So I'm gonna tell it it's gonna start from here. Okay, cool, forget about this right now. Now I'm just gonna go inside, and here I have something that we all the time see it inside of FramePad: start and offset. Now obviously if you worked with FramePad you will understand that if I go and try to change this, there we go. So all I have to do right now is I can just go and animate this, and it will animate every character. See that? Now, what if I don't want it as a character? I can just go inside of advanced. Instead of having character, I can actually change it into word. Now here's what's gonna happen. the word is gonna move. If I want to have like a huge text, like a lot of lines, I can just go inside of lines and just change the whole line. So I can just say like, we don't have Poppo, for example. So what's gonna happen is the first line is gonna go and then the second line is gonna go. All right, so this is how we work with character animation. Okay, now the next thing that I need to explain to you before we actually completely get back to our project is what I call the toggle halt keyframe or text source animations. Now, if we go inside our text, we'll see this thing called source text. So if I want to change the text like randomly, like source text, and then after a while, I'll say after 1 second, this text is going to change into my name is. So when After Effects is going to get into this keyframe, he's going to change my text. And then what if I want to make this suddenly, because of a sound, I want to make this even way bigger. So here's what's going to happen. See that? And then if I go a little bit and then change this into a Z, After Effects is going to make a keyframe. Alright, so this is how we glitchily change things. But can I only do this inside of, source text? No, I actually can do this to every single thing that I want that is keyframeable. So if I want to make this text like move from here to here to here to here every single time that it changes, alright, so I'm just going to Shift P to bring up the position. And when it's going to come here, I'm going to say the position starts from here. But then when it gets here, maybe I wanted this to come here. And then when it gets here, I want this to come like that. Now, if I go like this, I can see that my text animation is, going like that. Now, if I want it to be blocked, what we call hold keyframes, I'm just going to right click on the keyframes that I want to toggle hold and right click. Now, here's what's going to happen. After Effects is not going to be animating whatever is going on between these two keyframes, but he will only show me when I arrive there. This is when it comes into toggle hold keyframe. Alright, now let's get back to our project. Alright, now that we're back in our project, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start animating this. Now, here is a little advice from you. When you are trying to animate things that that are going to get a little bit insane later on, like you might change your idea into how it's moved, and then if you change it, it's going to affect the whole things that goes with it. You may not want to animate directly the layer, but use what we call null object and then parent them. But in order to do that, I'm just going to right click, new, null object, or you just select your composition, go into layer, new, null object. Now we use null object for parenting most of the time. So I'm just going to go here, I'm just going to put it below, I'm going to go into the beginning of my layer by pressing I, and I'm just going to close this one there, or I can just Alt bracket, and then I'm just going to go at the end and Alt close bracket. Cool. And of course, I'm going to make sure that this is in the same color. That's what I was talking about. And we're going to start animating. Now, what I know is I want this text to actually, come from the left. So I'm just going to go to the position here. I'm going to go into beginning, and I'm just going to bring this null object here. Okay, so I'm just going to go F9, go to my curve, and make sure that this is a fast one. Okay, because it's only the null object that is moving. The reason why we have that is because we didn't parent the layer to follow this. So we're going to tell the layer to follow this one, or to follow this one, null 5. Now, null 5 is not really understandable in a human language. I mean, it is, it's English, but then, we don't know what it means, especially if we have a lot. So I'm going to say position movement, or I'm just going to call this POS1. Now, what we're going to have is a text that moves with our sound. Now, I'm just going to go, for the sake of not deafening all of you guys, I'm just going to go and reduce the volume. Alright, cool. Perfect. Nice. Now I'm just gonna go and do a little animation to this text, and to do that I'm just gonna go to the text and I'm gonna say that I want the letters to appear like so. You know, they just appear suddenly. So how do we do that? Obviously we're just gonna use opacity on every letter. So I'm just gonna go into animate and I'm gonna say opacity, because opacity is what shows you whether you're gonna see something you're not. So I'm gonna say that the opacity is gonna start from 0%. Like, I don't want to see it at all. And then I'm gonna go inside of range selector and I could just, you know, animate this like that. Okay, so let's start with this and then see how we can make it random. So I'm just gonna go to 0. I'm gonna go at the last point and I'm just gonna make it like that. So what's gonna happen right now, it's as the text is moving, I am having my text coming in. Alright, now how do we randomize this? We're just going to go inside of advanced and make sure that randomize order is at on. Now After Effects is going to randomly bring things together, but of course for the sake of and the aesthetic of this project, we don't want to see every letter being animated like that, but rather just subtly. And to do that, I'm gonna bring the smoothness of the animation into 0%. So After Effects just, you know, brings it when it's either 0 or when it's either 100%. And that's the look that I'm looking for. Okay, cool, perfect. Now I'm just gonna ease everything. All right. So you can see that with the use of animatics and sound and little of animation that we have so far, we can already see where this project is going to. Now we're gonna do this thing to everything that is going in this project. So I'm gonna start animating by scaling down to all the other text and we'll be back. Okay, so I have animated every single text. Let's look at what we have now. So it's very simple. So it's just a text that is just, you know, following Null scaling down, going up. I'm just following the sound as we said. A text that just comes in and, you know, scale down, etc. But here's a problem, for example. I don't want this to appear like that. Let's just say that we want to do an effect where we type every single character. Now, if you remembered what I was saying when I was explaining the text animation, so we're just going to go inside of text animation. We're going to go to animator, and instead of having here a randomize, I don't want it to be randomized. Alright, so let's see what's going on. But that's not where we type from. We don't type from the end. We actually type from the beginning. So I'm just going to delete all the keyframes and I'm going to go inside the beginning. Now to do that, I need to animate this, but I'm just going to go to 100% first. And then I'm just going to make sure that we animate the start instead. So I'm just going to go like around here because I know that this is where the type machine is going to stop. Okay, so let's look at it. See that? Nice. So that's exactly what I'm looking for. But then what if we just wanted to randomly, you know, disappear? So how do we do that? How do we animate in and animate out? Well, that's simple, just as you said it. We're gonna animate in where we have that, and then we're just gonna add an animate out. So I'm just gonna go again, select my text, go into animate out to opacity, and of course it's gonna be a 0, and it's gonna be as well not smooth, but it's gonna be random. Okay, so let's just, you know, make some cool stuff. So I'm gonna start from end, and then at the end of the layer I'm gonna say you go out. Okay, around here. Okay, cool. So let's see the whole thing. All right, let's see again. Perfect. Now that we have that, all I need to do is I'll just have to literally animate everything. Now, I'm just gonna go into we don't, and I'm just gonna do the same thing that we did for this text. So I'm just gonna go inside of the text, copy the animator in, and I'm just gonna go into my text and copy that in. So we're just gonna have we don't. Perfect. Now, what if I don't want it to start that way? What if I want it to randomly start from another letter? Let's just say W. So all I need to do is I'm just gonna go inside of animator, range selector, exactly what I found, randomize order. Now, random seed, this is where you just keep on, moving until you see what you really want to start from. Now, as I said, I want to start from a W. I'm just gonna go like that. Alright, so I have the W there way before that, so that's pretty cool. That's what I want. Okay, so. Alright. And here, for example, what I want to do is I want to animate this as in suddenly somewhere around, like, near the end. What I want is, so let's just say at 4. I'm just gonna go put a source text here, and right after this frame, somewhere around here, I don't want to say cats, but I'm just gonna say we don't have cat. Alright, so let's see. Okay, so it's just a goofy thing to do. Alright, now we have that, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna, paste the same thing again here. But instead of having it like that, I'm just gonna say that we're ready. Right? Just gonna. Perfect. Now we have our animatic straight on. Now, next thing that we're gonna jump in is the next part, which is initial main shape transition. Alright, now the next part that we need to talk about is how we do this transition. Like, how was this done? Alright, now let's look at it. So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a new composition. I'm gonna call this transition. Okay. Now inside here, I'm just gonna create a shape layer. There are two ways of doing this transition. There is the normal way, which is the longer one, and that's where you're gonna use shape layers. And then there is a better one. Now the first one, which you should know at least how it works, and that's why I'm teaching it to you, is the shape layer. So I'm just gonna make a shape layer like that. It doesn't matter the color. The color does not matter, because what we want is we want to be able to use this transition no matter what color we want. Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure that the anchor point is here. Why I'm doing that? Because I want to later on scale the shape layer like so. And the only way to do that is if the anchor point is there. Alright, so it's gonna start from position here. Perfect. Now, after 1 second maybe or something, it's just gonna go to the other side. Nice. Now, here is one thing. While it is going, I want this scale to go down into. I'm gonna unlink this, because if I do 0 like this, it's gonna go all together to 0. But no, I only want it to shrink in this way. So I'm gonna unlink the text and just put 0. What that means is that After Effects is not gonna link X with Y. Y is gonna be alone and X is gonna be alone. Now that is done. This is what I have. Now what it needs is just a little bit of, smooth things out. Okay. Oh, well, it would be cool if it takes too much time, but then nice. Alright, somewhere around here. Okay. Nice. Or at least 1 second. Nice. Perfect. Now that we have that, I'm just going to close it in here. Now all I need to do is pretty simple. So I'm just going to duplicate this. I'm just going to select my position, and I'm going to say that maybe you are going to start from here. Like, why not? Alright, cool, and you're just gonna be a little bit there already. Now I'm just gonna duplicate you as well, and I'm just gonna select my positions, and I'm just gonna hold on like that. I'm just gonna go to the beginning of the keyframe. Make sure you select both keyframes and just move it. And of course, what I want to do as well is select both keyframes and just make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna have. Alright, now the problem that I have here is the position from where it starts, so I'm just going to go into the first keyframe only and make sure that it starts from here. Alright, the scale looks, it needs to be a bit later, so I'm just going to bring it a little bit. Perfect. Now I'm just going to take exactly this one, I'm just going to duplicate it, and I'm just gonna move it somewhere else again. Or you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna make a new null object. The reason I'm doing a new null object is because if I wanna move everything, I'll have to go to the position, select both keyframes, move them, select both keyframes, move them. But I don't want to do that. I just want to move everything without having to worry about moving it from the same keyframe. Well, to do that, I'm just gonna select all my shape layers, move them to the null object. Now, if I move the null object, all of them are going to change and the keyframes are going to stay the same. So I don't really have to worry about anything at all. Alright, cool. Now, all I need to do right now is just duplicate exactly these ones, make sure that they are connected to the null, and just move them somewhere else, like around there, you know? So now what's going to happen is I'm going to have those, but of course I'm just going to do a little bit of funky stuff and just offset them. Then I'm gonna have something like that, and then you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna duplicate everything, put it a bit up, and change a bit this, duplicate the null object, and make sure that all the oranges are actually following this guy. Now I'm just gonna go to this guy and just move everything somewhere around this way. Now here's what's going to happen, so I'm just going to change this one like that, this one is going to be like that, this one's going to be somewhere around here, this one's going to be... So I'm just doing things randomly, like there is no special order for this. Alright, cool. Now something else that I could do is I could just go individually to each one and probably scale maybe this down, and maybe what I could do is go to this guy specifically and change the scale of it to something scarier like that, or you know, or maybe just go to the position of this guy and you know, just literally go to him. It's like, you specifically, I'm gonna go and change you. So we have things like that, which is pretty perfect. Nice. Now that we have that, actually we don't need these anymore, so I'm just gonna delete them. Now we have our transition. This is very important that you keep track of this. Now I'm gonna call this transitions. Okay, so I'm just gonna close this. Now I'm gonna go inside the tutorial, put the transitions there. I'm gonna put this one here. Now, why did I keep it that way? Well, here's how we're gonna use them. So I'm just gonna go back here. I'm gonna go to my transition, and I'm just gonna bring it here. I'm gonna make sure that, yeah, this is where I want it. Cool. Now you get the idea. Now the thing is, we don't need all this part here. So I'm just gonna go inside, and I'm gonna say, like, I think all my transitions are gonna end somewhere around here. Alright, so I'm taking my work area, I'm shrinking it down, and then I'm right clicking on it and say frame contour work area. What this is going to do is going to tell After Effects to only make the composition as bigger as my work area, so I don't have that extra time that I don't need. So when I go back to my composition, I'll see that, you know, it shrank, which is way better and more organized. Now here's what we have. Perfect. Now what would be cool is I'm gonna go here. Okay, so I'm just gonna put it here, fill. So we effect, so once again, all right, effect, generate, fill, boom. So I'm just gonna go and let's just say I'm gonna pick this kind of red, because why not? So I'm just gonna go here and I can give it color. If I want to change it to blue, I could just go here and change to blue. And that's why I said do not worry about what your colors there are. It's better if you do the colors outside. And this is how you organize your workflow. Like, you don't need to go and change every single little shape. You know, just work smarter. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna duplicate this. All right, and I'm gonna shrink it like that. And of course I'm gonna make it a little bit later. So here's what's gonna happen. Perfect. Now the thing that I don't like about this, it's that it is it's a bit too slow like that. So I could just go and, you know, try to change every shape layer, but that's not really cool because we have too many shape layers. So what we're gonna do now, I'm just gonna right click, time, enable time remapping. All right, now I'm just gonna get back here. I'm gonna close it here. Now if I change this keyframe here, what's gonna happen is the whole animation is gonna happen as fast as possible. All right, see that? Perfect, that's exactly what I wanted it. Now I'm just gonna close this, and now I can safely duplicate this. Now, if I need to recreate that Hall effect that you saw in the original video, all I need to do right now is literally, for example, just duplicate this one, which is the main one, and I'm gonna change all this into red so that I know what's going on. Now I'm gonna go here and say these are gonna be the blue ones. Now I'm gonna go here, go back to color, copy, and go back to my transition and pick that there. Now I have, you know, the blue ones, but of course they are on top of each other, so that's not really cool. So I'm just gonna go drag that like that. Okay, now what you're gonna see is that this one starts to blur. Why? Because I'm starting to scale it like that. Alright, so to fix that, all you need to do is press F4 and make sure this is rasterized. Now, no matter how much I scale this up, it's not gonna blur, no matter how. Cool. Okay, so now that I've made so many duplicates and sizing again and again and again and again, this is what I have. Okay, so now we have everything following the sound, we have a transition, now that is cool. Now I want to teach you another effect, which is when you're working on glitch, it's really good if you're changing the background color as well. So let's see how we can do that. So for example, here we start with a black. You know, we could just subtly change black, or we can be a bit smart about it. Now let's practice this technique that we call transition. So I'm gonna make a new composition. I'm call this transition 2. So what I'm gonna do is somehow the same thing. So I'm just gonna make a shape layer like so. Okay, so I'm gonna make the anchor point slide right here. Okay, so again, I'm just gonna make a scale, just 2 keyframes, 1, 2, and I'm gonna link the X and Y because I just want the X to go like so. Alright, so here's what's happening. Pretty super straightforward. Alright, I'm gonna make it just a bit earlier. Perfect. Now what I'm gonna do is very simple, it's very dumb as well, it's very stupid because that's what I do and that's who I am. And now you're gonna be dumb too because you gotta do that. But hey, you're not as dumb as I am because I had to do that first. So I'm just gonna go duplicate that, and then again I'm gonna select all of them, duplicate them. So you see, I'm not that dumb. See, I'm a bit smart. I'm a bit smart. I'm not that dumb. Like, I'm dumb, but not super dumb. Okay. So I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna put here, and of course I'm gonna select both keyframes and make sure that it's actually a bit bigger. Okay, cool. Now what I'm gonna have is this. Now all I need to do is just a little bit of what I call a little bit of offset. So one is gonna come earlier, another one is gonna come later. You know, just like so. So this is what's gonna happen. All right. Perfect. Now, how are we going to use this? So I'm just going to get back to my background here. I'm just going to drop the transition in. Now let's focus on our background and transition. Now I have thought so many times in my tutorial the use of alphabet. Now I'm going to press F4 if I don't see it. Alright, so I can just press this, or I can just press F4 if you are on Windows. Now if I go here, I can see alpha mate, alpha inverted. Now alpha mate means I will only see this layer when there is something on top of it. Like when this has something, I can see this thing inside of it. And alpha inverted is that I will only see this layer when there is nothing inside of this. So I'm gonna go here and say, hey, I want to see this background only when there is white on top of it. So now I see it. Now it's gone. Alright. If I go inside my transition, this is how it looks like. There is nothing down here. So there is nothing down there too. Alright. Now here's how it looks like. Cool. Alright. Now alpha inverted is the other way around. I will only be able to see the background when there is nothing in the composition, like so. Perfect, that's a cool thing, and it's a handy thing to know. So I'm just gonna say once again that I just want it to be an alpha inverted. That said, I'm just gonna go and make a new composition, a new solid, and I'm gonna call this background 2, and it's gonna be white. Alright, and I'm gonna put it here. Alright, it's better if I have my transition on top of my first text, you know, so that the text just comes in like that. It's like behind it. And make sure that this is actually below this so that I can only see it when we're back here. Now when the whole background is gone, it is a good rule of thumb to just close your layers when you don't need them anymore, just like so. Perfect. Don't forget to save your projects. It's pretty cool. We're getting there. Now, the next thing that we want to do is we want to create our grid, our dotted grid. Alright, cool. So I'm just going to go and make a ellipse tool. I'm going to make sure it's black so that I don't see it, not that I have anything with that color. Okay, cool. Now, we have a dotted grid, but what if we want to have it like repeated? Just like in a HUD or anything, for any sort of reason we need a HUD. Now we can actually just duplicate this again and again and again and again and again and again and position it, but that's pretty dumb. That's pretty stupid. Like, we're stupid, we're not that stupid. So we're gonna use, inside of shape layer, we're gonna use repeater. Okay, now inside the repeater, we have how many times we want to repeat this. Now we have 3, and I can just make this even more. So let's just say I want 20. Now the 20 is way, you know, beyond the composition. So what if we want to change this? All we need to do is go inside the transform of the repeater. By default, the position of the points separation is 100. If I increase this, it's gonna even increase. And if I go down, you get the point. Alright, now I think our dots are a bit too big, so I'm just gonna go and make them even smaller because size matters, and that's exactly what she said. Now I'm gonna go inside my repeater and I'm gonna make sure that it's somewhere around 40. Perfect. Maybe just even 45 or 41. Yeah, that one makes a huge difference. And just make sure that it's actually inside there. Now, what if I wanted this? So do I just duplicate again and duplicate down? No, that's not what we're gonna do. So to do this, all I need to do is I'm gonna duplicate the repeater 2, and I'm just gonna go, instead of saying 43, I'm gonna go first here. I say nope. I wanted to say now we have a duplicate, but then it's on the same line unless we change this. Obviously it's too much because we have 23, so I'm just gonna go into something like 23. There we go. All right, so I'm just gonna push this up a bit. There we go. That's how we make a dotted grid. All right, so now what we need to do is we just need to copy our grid and bring it back to our composition. Now let's close this in order to know what we're doing. We just copy that in, but of course we don't see it because it's in the same color, so we're just gonna change it into black. Now it is 2 in front. I'm gonna say dot grid, and I'm gonna make sure that this is right at the end here. Perfect. Now I just want to see it somewhere around the second text, maybe, you know, somewhere around the second text. I'm gonna say like that, around here. I think it's too opaque, so I'm just gonna go and change that and say fine, deal. Now we have our whole thing going on. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to start playing with our text animation, or maybe we want to bring a bit, you know, the colors of the background. So maybe now it's all white, but then when it comes to this last scene, so I'm just gonna go start from here, and then I'm just gonna go into my background. Now I could, you know, be playing with, you know, the layer when it ends, when it starts, or I could do something even smarter. If you guys remember from text animation, we did something called source text, and then we learned how to use the toggle hold keyframe. What if we use that very same technique to actually change a color? So maybe the color before this, like let's just say around here, it was white in the beginning, but then at this moment it became again black. All right, so I'm just gonna select them both and say it's a toggle hold keyframe. Now the whole background is gonna stay white until I tell it to change into black, which is here. So now that I changed into black, obviously I need to change the character color into white. All right, and of course I need to change the grid into white too. So I'm just gonna go here and say that this one ends here, and this is obviously gonna become white like that, but it is too opaque, so I'm just gonna go and bring this into 5. Perfect. Now here's what we have. Now I'm gonna start and change the color for all these, and I'm gonna go back. Okay, so I finished coloring my backgrounds. Here's what we have so far. Perfect. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start and doing some funky stuff when it comes to the text. So for example, here what I want to do is I want to have the color to, you know, change as we're revealing the text, and then it becomes black when we're done. So I'm just gonna go to my text. I'm gonna go inside my source text. I'm gonna say that this is how it's gonna end. This is how it's gonna start. But then at this point, what I want is I'm just gonna get back to my this and just make sure that I have a red here. Okay, so I'm just gonna lock that down so that I don't have to come back to it every single time. So I'm just gonna go here, change the we here. Okay, so the moment the E is gonna appear, I'm gonna change it into that color. And then again, I'm gonna change the D into blue. And then I'm gonna change the T into blue again. and then I'm gonna change the DON and a W into blue, and the M into blue again, but then I'm gonna change the O into red, and then of course it's gonna get back to normal when it's done. Cool. So that when it comes to text animation, so we can do all that. Now I'm just gonna go and see if I can do something else like so for other things. I think this is all fine. This is all fine. Yeah, what we can do here is I'm just gonna go somewhere around here, and I'm just gonna go into source text animation, and right now we have the cats in this color, and then in the next color I'm just gonna say that maybe they are not that black anymore. Alright, so cool. Now I'm just gonna go add more lines and more details to my text, and I'll be back later. Okay, so now that we have done all of our color striking and everything, now I'm gonna start building everything that has to do with anticipation and everything like that. So the first thing is I want to tell the user that this is actually gonna come from left to right. So to do that, I'm gonna make a rectangle. I'm gonna make sure that the color is well, let's just start with the square. See what's going on. Perfect. Nice. Now that we have that, the next thing that I want to do is somewhere around here, where we are writing the letters. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start, because all these are extra elements, so I'm just going to keep them all on top so that I know what's going on. So I'm just going to go somewhere around here. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to bring the letter W. So I'm just going to write W, and I'm going to color it, for example, into red. Wait, what? Okay. I'm going to say W. I'm just going to bring it right there. I'm going to make sure where's the center. Okay, so I'm just going to bring the W there. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just gonna delete this W. Okay. Now the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna duplicate this. I'm gonna say A, and it's gonna be in black. And I'm gonna take this A and put it really small and put it somewhere around here and make sure that it's really small. So I'm just gonna wait until a letter A has to come there. Okay, cool. Somewhere around here. So what's gonna happen is that A is gonna disappear the moment we type in right there. Here. So I'm just creating anticipation. This is just some techniques that can be used to, create glitch, pieces. And again, I'm just gonna go and bring an H, and this H is gonna be somewhere here, and it's gonna be a bit big. And the same H, I'm just gonna go duplicate it and make sure that this is a small h, and the small h is gonna be somewhere around here, like that. Yeah. And then the same thing here, it's just that this time I'm just gonna go and bring it here, and it's gonna be around there, and it's gonna be in blue. Okay, perfect. So now what we created is that we just like we put more. So these things are all random, like there is no proper like a lesson on how to make you know, glitch imperfections like this, like these letters. They don't mean anything. It's just, you know, I'm just creating them. I'm just getting things there to just make these piece of glitch motion to be more, you know, full rather than super empty. And that's the problem with most of the motion videos that I've seen online on Vimeo or on YouTube, is that they are most of the time empty. Now I'm gonna create an anticipation for this blue color changing, so I'm just gonna make a blue square like that, and I'm just gonna make a blue thing like that, so it doesn't matter. So I'm just gonna go here, I'm gonna do a scale, I'm gonna do scale and probably position as well, just to make sure. I'm gonna say toggle hold, and after like 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm gonna do this like so, and it just grew. Okay, and it just grew, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. Okay. See, so it just follows also the music as well, so that's okay. So somewhere around here. Okay, perfect. Now another thing I want to show you is how we can do this transition in a better way, and if you don't have time to create these shape layers, there is a way to do that using fractal noise. Now I'm just gonna make a new transition. I'm gonna call this transition fractal noise, and this is the most efficient way of doing this, and this is the way that I like to do. If you don't know the way, this is how we do the way. So I'm just gonna make sure that this is not that long, and I'm gonna go and make a new layer, and it doesn't matter what color it is because I'm gonna use a fractal noise. A fractal noise take over whatever color that you have there. Now making fractal noise, you're gonna have this cloudy kind of feel, but that's not what we want. What we want is not soft, but we want it to be block. But then the problem is that each block has these cloudy thing because it's too complex, and we don't want it to be too complex. We just want it to be that simple. Now it is still has so many colors, so I'm just gonna go and increase a bit the contrast into 1000 so that I have less gray and I just have white and black and sun there, unless I go and completely delete most of these if I think they're too much. Now that I have things like that, I still think they're too much. I think just like this is way enough. Let's just go into a round number. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go inside of my transform. Right now you can see uniform scaling. What that means, this transform is exactly like the transform we have here. Now this transform is unit scale, as you can see 100%, so they are scaling everything in a very nice way. But that's not what I want, because I want to create this using this. So I want to create, you know, be able to, you know, just scale this and just use this so that I can see what I'm creating like that. And then I want it to be a little bit fat like that. There we go. Okay, cool. So all I need to do right now is just put a keyframe like that, and maybe after I think 5 seconds is too much, so I'm just gonna trim the work area by the way. Just go into 1 second and just make sure that all these go like somewhere around that. So what do we have is cool. Now I'm just gonna go and just like position, I'm just gonna make sure that this goes fast. Alright, cool. So this is how we can have it. If you want to have even more, you can just, you know, scale this and just, you know, increase these even more. If you feel like you wanna, you know, you wanna have even more. But it's up to you. So I'm just gonna go and increase this like that. So yeah, just like just push this a bit like that. Okay, cool. Alright. So the moment you do this, you can, you know, you have the choice to either go directly and start, you know, putting it in your okay, I'm just gonna push this a bit even more like so. Okay, cool. Alright, so if you want to use this, all I need to do right now is I'm just gonna go inside my project, and somewhere here, for example, I'm just gonna drop my fractal noise. Now let me explain to you some stuff that are gonna happen to you. So I'm just gonna show this. Now I'm gonna take this and scale it up if you did not have it at the same, you know, at the same resolution. Now the problem with this is that we have that black thing. So how are we going to remove that black thing from there? Because if I try to color this with the effect that we said, it's gonna color the whole thing, because that's what After Effects tries to understand. It's that this is just, you know, this is like a color. You see, it's not empty, it's colored. So it tries to color everything that is not empty, and that's not working on our sense. Now to fix this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the black color. To remove a black color, I'm gonna use an effect called linear color key. This normally you have used it when you wanted to remove green screen, blue screen, but right now we're gonna use it to remove the black. There we go. I'm still having a little bit of imperfection when it comes to how much they do, so I'm just going to increase a little bit more just to make sure that I have it like that. Now that is done, if I want to color it, let's just say to let's pick a color. Let's just pick, for example, red. So for example, I want to use this to actually, you know, mix with that. I can just go to fill, and I'll just put it there. So right now, my fractal noise is done. Alright, so the same technique as I said, the same technique. I'm just gonna duplicate it, for example, and just like make it like so, and even so, if I feel like these are still there but I want to remove them, there is no problem at all, because all I need to do is go and literally position this to the right. I don't even have to control the speed if I don't want to. Alright, there we go. So that's how most of my scenes were done, is just by using the fractal noise, and it works really cool. Now how can we use fractal noise as well? For example, we want to type this, so I'm just going to go into my fractal noise and just bring it up here to this scene. I'm gonna make sure I color this into the same scene. As I said, we have to stay exactly, we have to stay organized. Now I'm just gonna go and change this into blue, but we're not gonna grab that blue, we're gonna grab our blue because it's more pretty, it's more beautiful. And by the way, this is not my blue, this is not my project, this is just courtesy of a good motion designer who actually agreed to share with us this, and his name is Fede Maximiuk. I messaged him whether I can do this tutorial, and he said yes, so I had to recreate everything, and he's also very excited to see what you guys are gonna learn from this. So yeah, just go and give him some love. He's on Instagram too, and he does some crazy project that you may want to see. He is a master of glitch things. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create some anticipation using that. Alright, but I think they're going too slow, so I'm just going to go into my enable time remapping and make sure at this moment what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that, or actually what I could do Okay. Actually, what I could do, instead of doing the time remap, I could just make it move way faster, like so. Before the point. It has to move way before the point. Okay, so what's gonna happen here is cool. Now what would be cool if we go stylize this with a human touch? So what I mean by that is we're gonna go literally try to first create this point. So to create this point, I'm just gonna go and create a sample. Exactly that, a cube. So I'm gonna call this point cube. I'm gonna make sure that it is pink because it depends on this scene right here. Now I'm just gonna stop there, stop this one here, and then just bring this one like so. Okay, cool. This is pretty cool. Now what I'm gonna do is like that. Now what would be cool is it stops here with the scale like that, but then in the beginning it was not here. In the beginning it was here. And the thing about this is the scale was like that, and then at this point it was way too big, like it was growing up in scale. And then, you know, principle of animations, stretch and squelch. So I'm just gonna go to the position and I'm gonna create a very fast animation, and of course I'm gonna do exactly the same thing when it comes to that. So it goes fast, then it just slows. Of course it should not disappear because this is a point cube. I'm just gonna have it there. This is the point cube, right? Cool. Perfect. Alright, so let's watch the whole thing. What would be cool is like when I hear that at this point. Okay, what would be cool at this point is I'm just gonna go to a scale. I'm gonna go one more frame and we have a whole keyframe. Okay, cool. And then one more frame, and then I'm gonna make this even bigger. And then bigger. Okay, let's see. Cool. There we go. Cool. Now that's all actually the techniques that I have used when it comes to this. And obviously what you can do to make this even better, for example, is I just added a little cubes that I just animate them. They go like this, and then they go here, and then they go down with no particular thing. Like you can see, it's just position. That's all there is. They just go position, position, and then that's pretty simple. Alright, cool. Now what I want to teach you is how to stylize all this. Now that we got all this going on and done with it, I'm going to create a new adjustment layer. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to stylize this with a noise. So I'm just going to go and add noise, and I'm going to add a 2%, for example, so you can see this noise here. So without noise, with noise. So it's way better if we have more noise. So let's just add 3%, which is way better. Perfect. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add a CC lens. Now CC lens, what it does bring you this effect of explosion. So I'm just going to go, for example, here. Like you can explode things. So I'm just going to converge it this much in the beginning. Okay, and I'm just gonna do a toggle hold keyframe, and after like so, I'm just gonna say that it's gonna come back to 100, or pretty much 500 to get back to its place. Okay, so what do we have? Yes. Okay. That's all. That's all there is to make this. Sometimes you want to do something funky like this, so what you do is, for example, you want to flip, let's just say you want to flip this have cats, alright? Like, suddenly you want to flip it. So what you do is, okay, I'm gonna use an effect called transform. Okay, so this transform, what it does is, without the use of a null, you get to transform the whole scene. Everything that is below this will be transformed. If you want to rotate everything, I can just rotate it. So let's just say at this point, one frame before, it was like that. But let's just say I want to flip this whole thing. So am I gonna connect everything to a null and then change? And if I have a lot, I'll have to change everything? No. All I have to do is create an adjustment layer, transform, and at this point, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do a 180. Alright, and then back at this, I'm gonna say that it is this is double hold, and we're just gonna say that it's gonna get back to its place. Alright, so something else that you may want to do is you might want to use the effect called invert, you know, to do this kind of stuff, and by just playing with the channels you get to have, you know, something cool. And obviously you can mix, so you can get different kind of, you know, maybe you want to invert it this way or whatever way you feel like doing. This is pretty much it. Another thing that you can do, and that's something I did, by the way, we're going to call this CC for color correction, because this falls under color correction, where you actually just stylize your piece. Now, one thing that I also did was I played with the grids here. As long as the text changes, I change the mask of the grid. Now, what do I mean by that? So right now our grid is like this, but then when we're going to try to reveal this, here's what I did. For the readability of this, I went to my grid and I created a mask. Now, if I try to make a mask right now on my shape layer, I'm going to be creating a shape layer, and that's not really cool. Okay, so to mask a shape layer, I'm just going to go and change from shape create tool create shapes to tool create mask. And now I'm just going to go and mask this part. All right, cool. Now I'm just going to go and make this as subtract. Now obviously this is the mask path, and I'm just going to change this into double hold keyframe, and at this point, wait, it was like that. At big text, this is why you should have markers, because you get to know where you want. But at this point, this mask was not even there, and I'm gonna change this into toggle hold keyframe as well. So bump bump, and then when I'm gonna try to get here, I'm just gonna copy this and put that there. And at this point, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna change that into this, but not that much. I'm just gonna change it into something like so. All right. And then when we're done with that, this, I'm just gonna go and bring this back again out, and here at this point I'm just gonna go and bring this big chunk right there, and I'm gonna change this into subtract. Alright, what would be cool actually is to just to stylize this, if you just go and make even the whole line. All right, so this is it. Of course, the more you add, the better it gets. All right, that's it for today's tutorial. Of course, my name is MrPoppo with double P. We changed the branding for sanity reason. My name is MrPoppo, and I'll see you guys on next tutorial. Cheers. Don't forget to subscribe and join my Discord and follow me on Twitch, and make sure you follow my streams. And thanks to all the Poppo community. You guys have been great. And of course, you can watch my other tutorials and my other tutorials and some other tutorials that I've made, and visit the website boutaib.com. Bye.